He can't wait. He's like every Wednesday.
Is that the nighttime?
The nighttime club. It's 6 to 8. You have to go to two classes. If he wants to go, we can carpool if you want. We can one can drop him off if you want.
Yeah, we're not.
Oh, sorry.
Just watch the.
All right, I'm shut my phone off. I'll be fine. No, that's fine. Yeah, if he wants to. They have a organization class. And they have art and crafts. They used to have ring for what people do themselves. This is just
Depends on Spectrum Sports.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the schedule of the meetings of the Township Council, established and adopted by Township Council, which is scheduled to designate the time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this means provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We're using electronic amplifying and recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record, and request all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly to the microphone. The recording device will still be utilized by the Township Clerk's Office for the preparation of minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Mr. Hutchison?
Present.
Ms. Grace?
She is ill.
Mr. McNeil?
Here.
Mrs. Stokes?
Present.
Mrs. Winters?
She is out on vacation.
Mrs. Charlo?
She's taken to a family issue.
Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Parliament?
He is ill.
Mr. Curtis?
Here.
Chief Harkins?
Here.
Mr. Chapa?
Here.
This evening, for the first time in 2 years, we are live having a presentation by the Gloucester Township Day Scholarship Committee for scholarships for high school seniors to attend college. Dr. Hollingshead, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mercado. We're very happy to be here tonight. We are the Gloucester Township Day Scholarship Committee, and for the last 37 years, we've been trying to raise a lot of money so we could give it away. And we give it to students who are graduating from high school in Gloucester Township. That's one of the 4 criteria that we have for our scholarships. You have to be a resident of Gloucester Township for at least the last 3 years. You also have to eventually be accepted at an accredited college or university. We also have criteria with respect to GPA and standardized test scores, either SAT or ACT. Tonight, we're here to award those scholarships. But before I actually start spinning the wheel and doing that, I just kind of wanted to mention to you that we really spend a lot of time trying to raise money throughout the township and throughout the year. Problem is that for the last 2 years, it's been very hard to do that. And we were going along quite well, giving out quite a bit of money year after year after year until the pandemic hit. Because almost everything we do brings people together for various events around the township, which is great for the township and for community spirit and all of that, but it didn't work during COVID. So one of the things we do is Gloucester Township Day. Some of you have been there in the past, but for the last 2 years, there's been no Gloucester Township Day. I can tell you, though, that there will be one this year. It's the first Saturday in June, June 4th. It's right here at the park. And I hope to see as many people out there as possible because it's one of our main fundraisers. Because we haven't been able to do the fundraising as much as we would like, the number of scholarships and the amount of money we've been able to give out has been curtailed over the last 2 years. We feel badly about that. It's not fair to this graduating class and last year's graduating class that the pandemic has done this, along with a myriad of other things that as parents, you know how that's affected your kids. So unfortunately, we've had to limit this year the number of scholarships we're giving out. We're giving out a total of 20 scholarships in the amount of $500 each. It's not as much as we would like, but at least it's a little something. And we hope that for those people who do win, that it'll be something that will help a little bit with the growing expenses. I wanted to just mention a couple of other things. One is that this scholarship committee is composed of about 17 people. Sitting over here to my left are the members of the committee who are here tonight. I'd like to ask them just to stand and be recognized. This is always a problem.
All right, so
Thank you all. And it's really through the work of this group, and I guess we have about double this number, that we're able to do the things that we can. It's entirely a volunteer organization. We're a 501c3. So any donations that anybody feels like making, it's tax-free. So having said that, I wanted to mention that this year, 332 students met the criteria that I mentioned a moment ago and submitted applications. We're only giving out 20. So you can do the arithmetic. It's not a good set of odds, but somebody has to win. And we found in the past, sometimes the aura of just you being here, maybe there's something out there. So I certainly hope that for all of you who are here, that you do pretty well with it. In order to follow along with what's going on today, you need one of these pieces of paper that were sitting out on the desk out there. If you don't have one, would you put your hand up and somebody will come around and give you one? Okay. Okay, and once you have the paper, what you need to do is find either you or your son or daughter's number, and you have to start focusing on that number. Okay, that's I understand the way to do this. But you can see there that we have a total of 332 names. It's front and back. I apologize for the size of the font, but in order to get it on there, it had to be that way. I'm going to have to do a lot of this, and hopefully you'll bear with me. And that you'll also bear with me that when we pull a number, I'm going to read the student's name. I'm likely to make a mess of some of the names. So I'm going to apologize up front for that. I won't apologize each time. It's a blanket apology. And the other thing is that occasionally, my fingers don't always work the way I want them to on the computer. So it might be that we misspelled, I shouldn't say we, that I misspelled a name. And if that's the case, I'm sorry, but what it says at the top of the page is that each student has been given a number, and obviously the number is based on where you fall alphabetically by last name. If we made a mistake in the typing, it would have then been reflected in the number. But the number that's on here next to your name is the number that we're going with, even if I misspelled your name. We have to say that up front, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that. So with that in mind, we're going to start this, and this will be the 37th year that we've been awarding scholarships. Over that time, we will have given out 1,465 scholarships for a total of $1,295,200 over these 37 years. So this year it's backed off a little bit, but we hope next year, with the pandemic maybe being under a little bit more control, we'll be able to do better. So we will we will take 20 ping pong balls out of here, and those numbers will get the $500 scholarships. After we do that, we will pull another 10 numbers. Those students will be alternates. Occasionally, a student who submitted an application and met the criteria ends up not going to college, in which case we don't want to have to come back and do this again. So we have 10 alternates. So if one student of the 20 does not go to college, alternate number 1 will get that scholarship. If 2, then numbers 1 and 2, etc. If you are an alternate and you don't end up with a full $500 scholarship, we're going to give you $100 toward whatever. So that's kind of the way it's going to work. The first 20, the order doesn't matter. You all will get the 500. But for the alternates, it's going to go in order based on how many students in the first 20 don't go to school. Last year, we had one student that didn't go to college, decided to enter the military instead. Other years, we've had 2 or 3. I think that's everything I needed to say. And so we're going to start with the numbers. Mr. Orlando, do you want to give us a shot? Number 328 is Robert Woodward from Gloucester Catholic. Number 182 is Wesley Laster from Highland. I don't know if I mentioned, if you do end up having your number called, it's okay to cheer. Cheering is encouraged. Okay, we're not in school.
319.
Number 319 is Andrew Tucker from Timber Creek. Number 46 is Austin Brown from Timber Creek. Number 39 is Charmaine Bernardo from Timber Creek. Number 219 is hard for me to find. Ryan McVeigh from Highland. Number 104 is Chase Flynn from Highland. Number 199 is Vanessa Marinero from Highland. Number 154 is Ryan Hill from Triton. Number 265 is Alexis Rader from Timber Creek. That was the first 10, and we're digging down deep and efficient person. 94. Number 94 is Charles Doherty from Highland. Number 96. Number 96 is Sarah Durso from Triton. Number 41 is Angel Bohan from Highland. 107. 107 is Tyler Ford from Timber Creek.
294.
294 is Dominique Smith from Timber Creek. Thank you. I'm sorry I haven't heard any cheers.
77.
Number 77 is Peter Krzyzewski from Timber Creek.
100.
100 is Jada Feggins from Timber Creek.
214.
No? Yes, okay, congratulations. All right. 214 is Zachary McErlin from Gloucester Catholic. Congratulations.
Two five five.
Number 255 is 255 is Caitlin Pearson from Timber Creek. How many more do we have?
One more.
Okay, this unfortunately is the last of the $500 scholarships.
323.
323 is Tamia Warren from Highland. Okay. Okay, so 1 out of 20 wasn't that good for our odds for all of you here, but hopefully the next 10 will be better. Number 324, Damian Washington from Highland. Alternate number 1.
370.
Number 317 is Stephen Torres from Timber Creek.
177. 177.
Okay, 177 is Gerwin LeBrog from Triton. I don't think I did that right. Too many vowels, I couldn't get it right.
88.
Number 88 is Ashante De Jesus from Highland.
That was the fourth one, yeah, the fifth one.
276.
276 is Shannon Russ from Timber Creek. Number 93 is Aaron Dorsey from Timber Creek. Number 116 is Alexandra Fry from Timber Creek.
86.
Number 86 is Ashley Dean from Highland. 175 is Hannah Kim from Highland.
31.
Number 31 is Kayla Barrett from Gloucester County Institute of Technology. Okay, again, I'm sorry that we didn't get more of you here. But again, I want to thank all of you and thank the mayor and council for being so helpful and cooperative and working with our committee. You also may have noticed in the list of people that won tonight, this is a scholarship that's available to students regardless of where they go to high school, as long as they reside in Gloucester Township. So you heard the last person was from Gloucester County Institute of Technology. We had, I think, 2 students from Gloucester Catholic. So we do send applications out to all of the schools where anyone from Gloucester Township might be attending. So again, we try to keep it as inclusive and make it a total community thing as much as we can. I would hope that we would see some of you on Gloucester Township Day on June 4th. And at some of our other events as we continue to emerge from the pandemic. So I thank you all for coming, and I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Orlando.
Thank you, Dr. Hollingshead and the Gloucester Township Scholarship Committee. Thank you for everything that you do for our community. We'll take a 5-minute recess and then restart our meeting.
So, they gotta look through the board, like on their Facebook, right? I love David on, he has it all over. I go to I came into the gym class. I have a 6'5" or 7'5" class. Pursue fitness and team. He works out for me. They are fantastic. I've been going and using them for like now. His DVD have it so they pay for, they get $1,000, $35 a session. So I put in for X so that it comes out to be $1,000 when I need more, she just re-ups it within my budget. And I go online and I schedule. Saturday, they have to do all for their skills. And they're all, they are. I'm telling you, he loves it because he has a ball. So like this was this video. See him doing this. He's supposed to be doing a balance beam. So the team sport, you see they're pulling this kid. Kids I highly recommend it. There are special ed teachers that do this. They started on the side, but they'll do it. They do it on different days up in Enfield. They do it around here. They do one in Magnolia. Like they go to different Spectrum Sports. So this is like, this is what he does. And they get a buddy, they get a volunteer to go with them. They'll run, they'll play, they do all different sports. You get a workout, they're great. And I trust them. So I'll sit and read a book. Where you can go in there, I'm in works in her daughter's got her going. She has autism.
Gotcha. How are you? I'm well, and you?
You good. Should hook up with her because she has the same kind of frustrations, and we'll talk about it and then and stuff. You know, when next time you get a chance, straighten up your time. Because she's like I told her, she told me, you only get 700 because I think her daughter's like just starting to get SSI. I'm like, tell them to charge them more rate. You know, I mean, you know, like the max. And so she did. She comes like, I'm like, that's exactly what you do. Because you know, like all this, it's a joke. I mean, like, like, never. Like, you know, it's hard to say. My mother-in-law, you're going to charge him rent? It's the game you gotta play.
I put every bill I pay, divided by 6 people and say, here's his share. And then I do 5 of this court, he's out there.
And I just got a letter, they want to do a phone call with me, so that.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I have an appointment for a phone call from SSI. Didn't see any problem or anything. It's the first time I've heard from them.
And I keep my, like, I have
Balances, like putting, then I'll transfer to my check
I
account.
transfer
I put
everything
room
but,
for it.
yeah, I
You know,
transfer everything but
so I can-
$50
Yeah,
every month.
absolutely. Okay. No, we're just talking about our kids.
Our kids.
You don't want to get me started.
You're right. All right, thanks. Deb.
Thank you.
Call- If you need anything else about it, let me know about it.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Zeus retired? Zeus, yeah, because you also had to retire, so.
I picked the first one up and it was easy. I guess that makes sense. I would just keep them in the big red barrel.
Yeah.
Guess you gotta make sure that we're there.
Guess the
Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call again, please?
Mr. Hutchison. Present. Mr. Mannion.
Here.
Mrs. Stubbs. Present. Mr. Mercado.
Present.
Mr. Cardis.
Here.
Chief Harkins. Mr. Chadwell.
Here. We now open up the public portion. This is for agenda items only. Anyone wishing to address council may speak. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The total time for the public portion will be 15 minutes. Does anyone like to speak on any of the agenda items? Ms. Coyne.
Denise Coyne, 1060 Cheese Lane Road.
Good evening, Ms. Wong.
Good evening.
Good evening. I have questions on the ordinance. I don't know the number, but did the township close on those 3 lots that are being transferred? There's only one ordinance.
So they were taken in an in-rem foreclosure in November of 2016. And the appraised value of that property was $480,000. And T&M Associates agreed to take on the property in exchange for the cleanup,
You need M&T.
remediation of that property.
M&T.
I'm sorry, T&M is the planning folks, M&T. So that cleanup that remediation was $511,000. So that is, as far as, that's what the ordinance is.
Okay, so they did clean it up.
Yeah, we're waiting for a groundwater document, but so far, everything, I spoke to Mr. Carter earlier today, everything has gone swimmingly well on the cleanup.
Okay, because I believe the agreement of sale said that they had to deliver the RAO to the township prior to closing. So,
Okay, I could speak to Mr. Carter about that. I don't know about the RAO.
okay, because the other question I had was, I found a document stating that that property was cleaned up and I believe it was in the late 80s. 1,100 cubic yards of contaminated soil was removed and disposed of, and no further remedial actions were needed.
What lot was that?
It was lot 11.
Okay, so this is dealing with lot 5, 6, and 11.
Yes, but it said, this report said that that lot and the off-site areas no longer required any remedial action. No further action was needed.
So are you saying that the lot 5 and 6
Yes,
need no further remedial action?
yes,
That's what you believe.
yes.
Does that document say specifically that?
The document says, 1,100 cubic yards of contaminated soil was removed from the area disposed of. It is at an off-site location and backfilled the excavation with clean soil. No further remedial actions are planned for either the on-site or off-site areas.
So it doesn't say 5 and 6.
It was block 13103. And trying to see what else. It said one residential property where the molds were disposed of, and then several on-site and off-site areas.
Yeah, it doesn't say lot 5. and
It
6.
doesn't specifically say 5 and 6, no. So was remedial action done on lot 11?
I don't have the remediation report, but I can follow up with Mr. Carlmer. Ms. Coyne, that's your time. If we have additional time, you can come back up.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Mr. Kruger.
Evening, council.
Good evening.
Resolution 99 with regard to the Township Historical and Scenic Preservation Committee. Is that a new committee or something that's been?
That's a long-standing committee that they've been involved with. Gabriel, if you look back at that quilt in the back of the room there, a lot of the historical sites they've been involved with and preserving them and also working on the history of the township. They have annual events that Gabriel Davies Tavern. So no, that's a long-standing committee.
Sheriff get from the main car.
Okay. How many members are being appointed this evening?
2.
How do you get voted in for that?
They expressed an interest in it, and both of these individuals are involved with Gloucester Township Rotary. In fact, I asked one if he was really interested in participating in this, and he said yes. They recently had a cleanup there, the Rotary, and I guess both individuals expressed an interest in being involved in that committee.
Well, you should, have you been to Gabriel Davies Tavern?
I have not, no.
You gotta check it out. Are we doing the community garden this year?
I'm not sure, but they have a reenactment taking place the weekend after Easter.
Check it out, very much.
Yeah, we'll do. Absolutely. I wasn't aware that this was a committee the township had, so I was just interested. I thought this was maybe getting started up, but it's good to hear that it's been a viable committee for years. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion. Proclamation.
2022, you drive, you tax, you pay, distracted driving crackdown, April 1st through the 30th. Whereas distracted driving is a serious life-threatening practice that is preventable. And whereas distracted driving can result in injuries and deaths to all road users, motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists. And whereas distracted driving occurs when drivers divert their attention away from the task of driving to focus on another activity instead. And whereas in 2019 alone, distracted driving related crashes resulted in 3,142 deaths and 400,000 injuries on our nation's roads. And whereas in New Jersey, distracted driving was listed as contributing circumstance in 49% of all motor vehicle crashes in 2019. And whereas the state of New Jersey will participate in the nationwide distracted driving 2022 crackdown from April 1st through the 30th in an effort to raise awareness and decrease driver distraction through a combination of enforcement and education. And whereas the national slogan for the campaign is "You drive, you text, you pay." And whereas a reduction in distracted driving in New Jersey will save lives on our roadways. Therefore, be it resolved, David R. Mayor, Mayor of the Township of Gloucester, and Orlando Mercado, Council President, do hereby proclaim the Township of Gloucester support for the distracted driving 2022 crackdown, both locally and nationally, from April 1st through the 30th, 2022, and pledge to increase awareness of the dangers of distracted driving.
We have an additional proclamation. It's walked on.
National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, April 10th through the 16th, 2022. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is crucial to the protection of the life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Gloucester Township Police Emergency Communications Center. And whereas police safety telecommunicators are the first and most
critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas the public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Gloucester Township Police Department have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township of Gloucester Township Council and Mayor of the Township of Gloucester declares the week of April 10th through the 16th, 2022 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Gloucester Township in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe.
Thank you, Nancy. Ordinance, the first reading, the introduction, there will be a hearing, public hearing at the second reading. Ordinance 0-22-04, ordinance to the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey. Transfer of property known as Block 13103, lots 5, 6, and 11 to M&T Gloucester Partners, LLC. I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison,
Yes.
Mr. Minio,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes. Next is our consent agenda. Any council member would like to have any item removed, please speak up. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison,
Yes.
Mr. Minio,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes.
Resolution 100, resolution extending a temporary budget for the Township of Gloucester, temporary budget appropriation for the 2022.
I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison,
Yes.
Mr. Minio,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes. We did not receive any GT eGov access emails. We'll now open up our second public portion. This is for any item the public wishes to address. Each speaker is entitled to 5 minutes, and there's 30 minutes total for the public portion. Does anyone would like to speak during this public portion? Ms. Smithman. Mr. Burns, you'll be second.
Hello, good evening. My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I reside in Millbridge Gardens Apartments on Millbrook Court.
Good evening. Good evening.
But is Pastor David McMurray here this evening?
No, he's not.
I noticed that it's on, forgive me, I typically don't take these agenda items to see how they're laid out, but is he typically here?
There is a Gloucester Township ministerium that meets, and they rotate the clergy throughout our township to provide the invocation at our council meetings. This is something that they do as a service to our community. He was listed to be here. Perhaps he had another matter to tend to.
All right. Well, what I wanted to bring up, as you can recall, I've been trying several different ways to introduce the conflict, to get the council to begin to think on what to do in certain situations that just don't have guidelines just yet. One of which would be for the case of a sudden onset of a stillborn child. What is the procedure to do with that? The insight to give to someone when the trauma that they might be experiencing could lead them to not know what to do, and the result could lead to a lifelong trauma for anyone involved in such a situation. It occurred to me that certain things that are expected of us as citizens one thing I thought I would bring up this evening was jury duty. Jury duty is it's a civil duty. We need to do it. We're required. The stipend for jury duty has not changed since it began, from what I understand. The stipend, what you're paid to go to attend jury duty, what you're compensated for, is based on the price of oats to feed your horse to get you there. They gave you gas money to get to the court system. Procreation, to be producing life, it's not always successful, but it's a species duty in and of itself. If it doesn't succeed, there really are not guidelines. As far as the government goes, I don't even know what to refer to it as, a unsuccessful birth, stillborn child is not identified. You're not permitted to do anything with it. You're not permitted to give it to a funeral home. You're not permitted to bury it if you don't own the property that you're on. I understand that you can bury pets if you own a property. I'm really not sure of the guidelines, but we're not permitted to do anything. I read the English Standard Version Bible. There's very specific guidelines for many things: what to wear, how to wear them, when to eat, what to build, right down to the centimeters, how things are going to be laid out. The blueprints are very specific. They speak of children coming to the point of birth and not making it, but it wasn't mentioned. I read the whole thing. It doesn't tell you what to do with the remains on a biblical level either. If we could begin to try, is there a committee that we could begin? Is that possible?
I've listened to you when you've spoken to us, and I appreciate your passion for your subject. I don't know if you've known anyone who's been in that situation, but what usually occurs is a doctor is involved, and a doctor's involved a lot of the time before things begin to happen, and tend to guide a lot of women as to where to go, what to do, and who to speak to. Doctors are very much involved in that process, and women usually have a great relationship with their doctor. A lot of the times they have a great relationship, and the doctor already knowing what's going to occur. Usually, if there's an issue, the doctor is usually on hand, and they guide you through that process. It's a very personal process. It's not a process that women often want to share with the government or with the office. It's very personal. So usually someone very personal, and usually the doctor, will guide a woman, family, husband, mother, father, exactly where to go and what to do, and to take those steps. So the steps that you're asking for, it's something that's very personal to someone, but your doctor will guide you and let you know.
I'm not speaking for myself. Although I could be because it could apply to anyone.
When I say you, I don't mean you personally. I'm in general. A doctor will guide a patient.
But not all pregnancies are diagnosed.
We understand, but again, when usually people are feeling bad, they go to their doctor.
And it's not always, but they're not always given a diagnosis of pregnancy.
And I understand.
I hear the passion and the compassion that you have
Yes.
towards the subject. I'm speaking for the very few people, the very small 0.001% that it could happen to. Since there are no guidelines, it stops them, I think. It must, because I can't even hardly think about it. And it did not occur to me.
Right, and I didn't mean you by that manner, but usually a doctor
I had no diagnosed pregnancy. I had many diagnoses, no diagnosis of pregnancy. They took CAT scans, x-rays, ultrasounds. There was no diagnosis.
No personal.
But I do believe that these things have happened. They had to set up guidelines for the process of abortion because
Those are
of
medical guidelines.
Well,
and again, you're dealing with a doctor who guides you through, even if you don't know what occurs.
There might be some families that it's still affected, and it could occur again.
Ms. Smithman and Ms. Stubbs, thank you very much. Your time is up. If we
Thank
have
you,
more
Council.
time, you can come back up. Mr. Burns.
Good evening, Council. Brian Burns, 5 Silver Drive.
Good evening, Mr.
Ariel,
Burns.
I had a couple topics I wanted to touch on this evening. I was asked by Ms. Coyne and her Rotary, since I have an environmental background, to be part of the Farrows cleanup next Friday, which is Earth Day. And I reached out to Mr. Cardis, and he was very supportive, and he's going to provide us some grabbers and a couple other basic tools to get that job done. So thank you so much for doing that for us. And hopefully the kids will walk away with some knowledge in environmentalism and the importance of keeping the environment clean and watersheds and all that sort of thing. So I want to say thank you. The other thing is, on March 29th, I was in my backyard and I heard, obviously, was the collision of 2 vehicles right up around the corner from me. I was probably the 3rd or 4th person on the scene. One car was totaled. I suspect the other car was probably totaled. The police arrived very shortly, very short period of time. And I wanted to ask the chief, I don't know, you're not in charge of emergency operations, but are the police typically involved with emergency medical treatment? Or do they wait for the ambulance to show up, or?
Depends on the situation, but up to the level that we're trained, we often will begin providing first aid care, depending on the situation, every situation is different.
I mean, the reason I asked is because we arrived and the 22-year-old driver of the car that was totaled was bleeding pretty badly from his head. And the patrolmen on duty weren't doing anything. And my girlfriend had a sweatshirt and a white T-shirt underneath, and she took the T-shirt off for this young man to put on his head to stop the bleeding. And it kind of took me by surprise that the police patrolmen themselves were not administering that sort of aid. And in those types of situations, time kind of goes slowly. And it seemed like a very long time for the ambulance to show up. And the ambulance that did show up was from Winslow. And I asked the patrolman, I said, how come is it Inspira or something we have contract with?
Yeah, it's normal. If Inspira is tied up, they go to a mutual aid town, depending on the call volume. There's often times where both of our ambulances are committed to other medical emergencies in town. Camden County Dispatch goes to the next available.
Right, so that was leading to my next question. I guess depending on where the accident is, we have agreements, whether written or verbal, that if Inspira is tied up, then whatever town is closest would respond. Okay, which leads me to the next logical question is Inspira housed in one particular location, or are they using our ambulance buildings throughout the township?
There's one located in Ariel, and there's one located up in Shoes Landing on Stetzer Avenue.
Okay.
One's off Carwood Road, one's off of Stetzer Avenue, Shoes Landing.
Okay.
Chief, they're not hanging out in parking lots like our previous vendor. Okay.
Does the township have to pay Winslow for those services?
No.
Okay. I guess we would reciprocate the same way.
Exactly. It's handled as there's a mapping type of system, depending on call volumes, things like this. We'll draw from all over Camden or Gloucester County. Our ambulances, as part of that mutual aid agreements, will go into those other jurisdictions as the need is needed. And there's a balance, it's always a balancing act to try and maintain coverage to the best of our ability. I will say this, April 8th, the agreement went into effect with Inspira, where a 3rd ambulance was added during the hours. It's called the power truck. They're going to determine by call volume when that, but most of the time it'll be during the daytime hours, sometime in the afternoon through the evening, depending on, and that'll be subject to change depending on what the statistics tell us.
Is data kept in terms of when a call came in and when an ambulance arrives?
Yes.
Okay. I was just curious. And the other thing, my girlfriend called 911 as I ran up the street to address the situation. And she said she called 911 and had to ring almost 20 times. And she was going to call up and call back again before someone finally answered. And that was a concern for me. So I don't know if it was just an abnormally busy day, but
I'd have to check.
Yeah, and I thought this poor guy who was bleeding, what if it was so severe that he could have bled out? it does happen. We look at the situation across Keys Road where there's two elderly people ran into the back of a dump truck. I don't, it was a personal experience, and it was kind of scary. I mean, I have pictures of the vehicles. I mean, they were totaled. And this poor guy, he was 22 years old. He's bleeding from the head. And I mean, the patrolman asked him for his driver's license, but didn't offer any aid. My girlfriend she took her white T-shirt off and said, "Put this on your head, keep it there." I'll just stop the bleeding. And it was just like, it didn't seem like it was as coordinated as it could have been. But I'm out of time.
Well, thank you to you and your girlfriend for all that.
Thank you. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Polidoro?
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidor from the Historic Village of Ariel.
Good evening.
Ordinarily, this time of year, we see the budget on the agenda. Every year, we're late, and this year we're later. Is there a reason why we're not seeing that this evening?
I was actually asked at the workshop by Mr. Heimball. Mr. Hardis had reached out to Division of Local Government Services and asked for permission to have it on the second meeting in April. We were aware that one of our colleagues was going to be on vacation. Another one is tending to a family issue. And Ms. Grace is ill today. So he received permission to have that introduced at the April 25th meeting.
Okay, now with foresight or lack of foresight of what that all is the budget prepared? And if all members were here and a quorum was met, any reason why that is not online? Or generally you'll do that right after it's introduced?
After it's introduced.
Is the budget prepared and here at the meeting tonight?
No.
Even though you didn't know there was a quorum until only recently, we still don't have a budget ready?
No, I had indications that we may not have a quorum or have 4 members present about 10 days ago. So, no, but that's not available. Once it's introduced, it'll be put on the website.
I mean, it's just tough enough that every year we're late and this year we're later. Most businesses, private businesses, I know that you guys keep saying it's what the state allows, we're almost halfway through a year and we're introducing a budget. And is there not a percentage of a introduced budget or the temporary budget? That is what percentage of the regular budget? Did I see 26%, 26.5%?
I believe that's what it is, yeah.
Okay, so in the interim, you're passing an interim budget for about 26% of the budget, and we're 45% of the way through the year. There's a lot of spending going on. There's a lot of things going on, but a budget is 26%, and yet we're 45% of the way through the year. Do you see what I mean by when it's late every year? Is there any reason why?
I wouldn't consider April 25th 45%.
All right, let's say 40%.
Well, let's get the numbers. Let's get the numbers straight.
Well, that's the numbers.
Rounding up, I would say.
Well, all right, if you want to do that, 26%, we're more than a third of the way through, and we're passing an interim budget. Well, New Jersey is.
We have permission from the division to introduce the budget on the 25th of April.
Are you aware of how many towns have already passed their budget?
I am not.
Okay. Almost everyone around us, all the majors pretty much have, all the.
They would have introduced, they would not have passed.
Well, even if it's introduced, it's way ahead. Is there any reason why, besides giving me this song and dance about the state, which I still think is one of the most horrible guides of all? We're, if not the worst, second worst state in the union for a lot of things. Why we can't present a budget October, November, and to introduce it and pass it so that we have a budget in place when we're actually in the year, we're going to be spending the money? Why is it that forget about the rest of the towns. Why do we do that?
We follow state guidelines.
Again, pretend we're in a normal state that's accountable, transparent, reliable, and honorable. Pretend we're in a good state.
State would not accept the budget any earlier than then the first meeting that is available to introduce the budget in the month of April. And that's what.
So you're telling me that the state approves of passing a budget more than 1/3 of the way through the year that spending's already going on? You're telling me that that's what the state is telling you to do?
On the 25th of this.
Please speak in your microphone, it's hard to hear you.
Sure. On the 25th of this month, it will be 31.5% of the way through the calendar.
That's beautiful, but almost all private businesses, good governments in other states present their budget before the year begins. All spending is approved, all the things that a budget has is passed in normal states in the year before, so that budget is in place as they move forward. The federal government, they're not my problem. Gloucester Township is where I'm asking this question.
Quick question. Are we waiting for any information from the state? I really don't know the answer to this question. During the first quarter of the year, do we wait for any?
Oh, yeah.
What do we wait?
We wait for us to complete the annual financial statements unaudited. We need, that thing is due by February 10th. Sometimes there's an extension on that. Again, we're following the state guidelines. I know Mr. Paldor does not like the way the state runs the budget cycle, nor does he like most of the things that the state runs.
Aid from the state. When do we know what aid we're going to get? And maybe that doesn't factor into this.
No, the state aid remained steady, and we haven't had an increase in state aid in over 20 years.
Do they tell us when that number is what it's going to be on a particular date through the year?
I think everybody pretty much went by the speech that Murphy gave. I guess it was towards the end of March, sometime in March, where he made his announcements, where I had heard that there was going to be an increase in state aid for local municipalities, but that didn't happen.
Okay, and I see my time is up. So basically, at the end of the day, we're late every year because the state encouraged us to be late every year. This year, we're a little later due to circumstances beyond your control. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Ms. Coyne?
Thanks, Alan. I didn't put you on the spot.
Denise Coyne, Choose Landing Road. This report is the publicly funded cleanup site status report. And this paragraph says, in 1992, the NJDEP contracted with the United States EPA's emergency response team to determine the extent of the metal contamination in the soil surrounding the site. The EPA found lead, copper, and zinc levels which exceeded the soil cleanup criteria at the time at several off-site and on-site areas, including several residential properties and a small off-site landfill. However, when the soil cleanup criteria was changed in 1993, only one residential property where waste moles were disposed of still exceeded the NJDEP criteria for soil contamination. The on-site area and the other residential properties and the off-site landfill area that initially showed elevated levels of metals were all below the new criteria. And the money that was used to clean up the site was $499,000 of public funds. So I'm wondering, Lot 11 is included in this report, and according to this report, Lot 11 required no further remediation, and there was no other on-site or off-site areas that required remediation. So I'm wondering what document or what information was used to determine that the lots required remediation?
Are we able to give a document suggesting that 5 and 6 had issues requiring remediation?
Yeah, I'm not prepared to answer that here.
Dave Parliament.
Well,
Before the second reading on this ordinance, I think we should be able to provide.
Well, Ms. Coyne, can you provide a copy of what you have there?
Yes,
Okay, so if you could provide that, I'll provide that to Mr. Carlemare. I do not have the remediation report in front of me.
okay. And also I'm concerned because lot 11 is included in this, and lot 11 was included in your assessed value that was used to determine the $480 selling price to M&T for these 3 township-owned properties. So if lot 11 was included, this document states that it should not have been.
No, it would say that it had been remediated. That's what that
It says it requires no
further
further.
action.
Right,
Okay, so you're saying that letter says that there's an NFA for lot 11. So you're
and
saying,
the surrounding area, according to the 1993 criteria.
so if you could provide that to us, or we'll provide a copy to us, I'll share that with Mr. Carlemare.
Okay.
We made a copy after the meeting. That's your only copy.
Thank you. I'll make a copy. It doesn't say where it came from, but I can give that to you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Mr. Krug.
Evening again, Council. Paul Krug, Blackwood Estates. Our dialogue with regard to the municipal budget took a step forward last week, thanks to Councilman Hutchison, who stated that he'd like to see the 6.4 million in federal COVID funds, your money, my money, fellow citizens' monies, returned to us through no raising of our property taxes in this year's municipal budget. I'll go one step further and request that the administration, Township Administrator Tom Cardis, the CFO, work towards a no tax raise within the municipal budget on their own, and then utilize the 6.4 million in citizens' tax monies to actually reduce the tax burden. Something that will not have happened in this township, as you know, as I've stated the statistics, for nearly 2 decades. So I was hoping maybe to hear from Ms. Stubbs or Mr. Mignon this evening in whether or not you would step forward and either align with Councilman Hutchison or maybe align with myself and let the administrative portion of this government know that you as the representatives of the people and me as the people are requesting at least a neutral property tax, but a reduction in property taxes.
Well, I just want to clarify one thing. I said during the last meeting that I was asking the township to utilize half of the money in this budget, half of the money in next year's budget, not to use everything in 1 year. I think that's more appropriate. And I don't think we have all the money anyway. So that was my thought. And in terms of asking the township, I want to answer this. In terms of asking the township to reduce the amount to be raised by taxation, I'm a firm believer in it's important to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. I don't want to compromise that so that I can get a savings of, $100 a month. I don't think I want to do this.
Sure.
So just so that we're clear.
And if we were to keep the budget without an increase, if Tom Cardis and the CFO could do that, you think our citizens would be put in jeopardy from a safety perspective? Because the 3.2 is money we've already paid, you've paid, I've paid to the federal government coming back to us. So I'm just asking for that to give us relief in a time when with these inflation numbers. I think we're gonna expect an 8.4 this week.
I don't know what the revenue.
People are spending a lot.
I don't know what the revenue numbers for the town are. There's two sides to this equation. One, we have to contemplate what are the revenues going to be for the town in the calendar year 2022. They're not fixed year to year, and they fluctuate. In fact, I think that the taxes are being challenged on the outlets. So you just don't know where you're going to be. On the flip side, you have pension obligations that are tremendous, that compared to 20 years ago, those pension obligations are incredibly different. They're exponentially high. The health benefits are exponentially higher, plus the gasoline, exponentially higher. So I think to put handcuffs on the administration and make them promise anything, well, at least, I think it's difficult.
I don't think you're putting handcuffs on the administration as much as you're letting them know where you stand philosophically on the government spending continuing to rise at an exponential rate. I'm not gonna go over the statistics because I've bored you with them enough, but we can plateau. We can at least plateau. We don't need to continue up and to the right.
I think in principle, you and I are on the same page. I do. But I think when you put pencil to paper, it's difficult to do what we're suggesting. It really is. I mean, you and I, we can sit down and go through the budget, and you can challenge me and I'll challenge you, Paul. And I'll say, okay, Paul, you know, this particular line item represents 25% of the budget. How much do you want to take from that particular line item? We can do that going through the budget, and it's challenging. I mean, I've done it in the past. I did it last year. I did it 15 years ago. I complained about the amount of dirt we were buying for ball fields that we had half of we didn't use the year before. It's just very challenging to make a material difference in what is going to be given, because they really do try to give us no tax increase. They try.
It is a difficult position, but it's one I know Tom Cardis and the CFO can handle and can certainly work out. Being CFO is, you know, a chief operating position, and it comes with difficult decisions, but they need to be made. They're made every day in private industry to ensure efficiency and effectiveness. And I know we can do it here. So, Dan, not to, I'm running out of time, but I just maybe wanted to hear from Ms. Stubbs, Mr. Mignon on your thoughts.
Well, my thoughts, I guess I share some of the thoughts you just heard. I don't know how much of the 6.4 has already been appropriated. I couldn't tell you that right now. I could see where the relief would be great. I would appreciate it if it could be done. But again, I don't know what's been appropriated already. I don't know what's there. I've said it. I think I've discussed it. You know, we all want to hold down the taxes. I don't want to pay more taxes. I'm on my own, and many families are working through different things, through the pandemic, and everyone here is in the same position. No, Mr. Carr says we want to pay any more taxes. Mr. Mignon, I think we don't want to pay any more taxes. If we can, we don't, everything that we do for ourselves also. So I'm in the same boat as you are and having those feelings. At times, I guess it is a tough decision, and I agree when you say tough decisions should be made. I mean, I see exactly what you're saying, but when you ask me, if we had those monies, whatever is appropriated, it can be applied to the budget so that there's some type of relief for us. Sure. I couldn't tell you an exact amount, but I understand what you're saying, and I could agree with that.
Thank you, Mr. Krug.
If I may just say one thing, I may not be here on the night when it's a packed house so this may be the last time you hear me speak, but if we can work towards what I've been requesting since the beginning of the year, that's why I want to have this dialogue. I'd very much appreciate it from you all. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our second public portion. Polling of directors.
Mr. Cardis,
Nothing to report.
Chief Harkins,
Just want to thank council and the mayor for that proclamation. I know it was late coming. I appreciate you taking time to register to recognize our dispatchers that work 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year very difficult job, and they are the best. So I appreciate you recognizing them. And just want to wish you all that are celebrating a happy Easter.
Mr. Chadwell?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Briefly, I wasn't gonna say anything, but Brian, you brought up, response. These are health and safety issues that you bring up, which cost a lot of money to deliver to the residents of the town. So if I'm gonna be judged based on an increase, decrease in taxes, that's a shallow way, and I'm not taking a shot at you, Paul, please don't think I am, but it is a shallow way to look at how we do our job up here. Open space, acquiring it, Brian, you're passionate about that. Paul, you're passionate about Blackwood. And I know that. And I know that you'd be passionate about Gabriel Davies as well. This is more than just an increase or decrease in taxes. This is a quality of life, it's health, it's safety. We gotta keep that in mind. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Rubio?
First of all, I want to say congratulations to all the seniors tonight that received the $500 scholarship money for their future. That's wonderful. Unfortunately, my daughter's ball was not picked, 225. We'll talk about that after Chief.
I'll try this out.
You can afford the $500. Second of all, I understand, Brian, you were saying about the police's presence, and I don't know the police's tactics, but if there's any trauma to the head, you gotta be careful when you try to take care of a head wound, because there could be a neck injury also involved. I know they were bleeding, you wanna stop the bleeding, but going near the, anywhere from the neck up, you gotta be very careful because of the spinal cord. Third, Mr. Krug, I didn't get a chance to say or explain what I wanted to say, but yeah, obviously, when the budget comes out, would I love to see no tax increase? Absolutely. Would I love to see it going down? Absolutely. I'm gonna do what I can do when the budget becomes available. I'm gonna look at it, I'm gonna go line by line, highlight the things that I feel as though can use my attention. I will speak with Mr. Cardis and some of the other council members to see what we can do to decrease it and do our best to keep taxes down, get it to a 0 or even below. So that's it. Everyone have a great night, great week, be safe. Thank you.
Mrs. Stubbs?
The scholarship committee did a great job as usual, even with the challenges of the pandemic, which is its tentacles are everywhere. So I look forward to seeing that making a comeback and being able to support our families even more. Thank you everyone for coming out. It's always great to hear everyone speak and get different perspectives from everyone. And it's always great to see people here. Have a good evening.
Mr. Mercado?
I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. Also thank the Gloucester Township Scholarship Committee. As those that attended the program, Dr. Hollingshead talked about 37 years of providing scholarships to high school seniors here. And that is done through the various events that the Scholarship Committee puts on. Gloucester Township Day and a murder mystery earlier this year. The 5K that we had this past Saturday, where that netted over $10,000 from our runners and our sponsors. Thank you to the chief, Public Works, the police department, the rec department, and EMS for being at our event this past Saturday. But they're all volunteers that have been involved in our community for many years, and this is their passion. And I served a small part on that committee because I organized the 5K race, but it is good that we as a community support them and support the events that they have, and they even support when they're here, when they're presenting these awards to children. Unfortunately, people walk out or they don't want to be part of the ceremony because they think maybe it's long and drawn out. But these kids and these parents here are here. They're here to receive scholarships, and the scholarship committee works very hard to move this forward each year. So thank you for those that support that committee. On the weekend after Easter, so if 22nd and 23rd, that's Gabriel Davies. It's a reenactment, correct, over at Gabriel Davies in Glendora. If you have an opportunity, please check that out. And I wish everyone a blessed Easter and a happy Passover. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. All right, have a great evening, everyone.
Did I see what's in there? Yeah, I look at the.
What time am I gonna be here?
Yep.
Not the same, Dan.
Doggy, do we need to do this first? You want to do it tonight? I'm not.
That's a mess. I don't wanna keep it if you don't wanna. I don't have to take it. Alone.
And what are you saying? What are you doing? And so, you know, I can't do
I just think she needs to that's why I say it appropriately. We say this all day.
Not the union anymore, not covered under contracts, everything's a little different.
I'm surprised because it's so.
Exactly. The rest of them don't even give a shit. You know, you're the days that shit.
Spence. I have to tell you this, one of the oddest things I've ever seen, I know you love open space. One of the oddest things I've ever experienced in my life is when I moved from civilization in New Jersey. And they spend enormous amounts of money, absolutely nothing. You know, it's open space. There should not, more than there's not need to be cause for spending money to do nothing. I agree with leaving space open. I'm in the southern end of town, all my open space is disappearing, jumps. And yeah, I just don't understand why saving the dirt does all that spending on it, you know. It's okay to have these properties and not have somebody go.
Tom, did you shut the line? Actually, come off my motions, tell me it's still on. We can hear it.
Thank you very much, David.
Okay.
How
do I, if I go in?
This says, it says lots 11, 18, and 19, 5, 6, 7. Yes. 11. Didn't require.
Yeah.